The Gathering Storm. The Korvax Dominion had ruled the western spiral arm of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Their empire stretched across 400 star systems, and their military had never known defeat. In the grand capital of Valoris Prime, Supreme Commander Thane stood before the towering windows of the War Council chamber, watching ships launch into the purple sky. His silver armor reflected the light of twin suns, and his 4 eyes scanned reports on holographic displays floating around him. Thane had led the Dominion military for 2 centuries. He had conquered 17 species and absorbed their worlds into the Empire. Each conquest had followed the same pattern: arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and crush any resistance within days. The Korvax way was simple and effective. No species had ever successfully opposed them for more than a standard week. Today's council meeting would discuss a new discovery: a small blue planet in a system the Dominion had catalogued as Sector 7749. The third planet from its star showed signs of industrial civilization and primitive space exploration. Initial scans suggested the inhabitants called themselves humans and had barely begun venturing beyond their own moon. Council member Draxus entered the chamber, his scales clicking against the polished floor. He carried data crystals containing survey reports from their long-range reconnaissance probes. His expression showed the typical Korvax confidence that came from centuries of easy victories. "Supreme Commander," Draxus began, placing the crystals on the central table, "our probes have completed their analysis of the human homeworld. The species shows moderate technological development but lacks any significant military capability. They have chemical propulsion for space travel and nuclear weapons that would be ineffective against our shields. Their largest orbital station houses fewer than 10 individuals." Thane activated the data crystals and studied the images of Earth. Cities covered the continents, and satellites orbited the planet in seemingly chaotic patterns. The humans appeared to be a divided species with multiple governments and languages, perfect targets for conquest, as divided species never mounted effective resistance. "What is your assessment?" Thane asked, though he already knew the answer. The Dominion always expanded when opportunities arose. "The humans pose no threat to the Dominion," Draxus replied confidently. "I recommend we send a standard warning fleet. 300 ships should be more than sufficient to convince them of our superiority. Once they understand resistance is futile, we can begin integration protocols." Far across the galaxy, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Horizon, studying the same stars the Korvax observed from their distant empire. She had short black hair and sharp brown eyes that missed nothing. Her uniform bore the insignia of the United Earth Space Command, an organization that officially did not exist according to public records. "Captain, we are detecting unusual energy signatures at the edge of the solar system," Lieutenant Chen reported from his sensor station. His hands moved across holographic controls, refining the data. "The patterns do not match any known natural phenomena or human technology." Vasquez moved to stand behind Chen, watching the readings cascade across multiple screens. She had commanded the Horizon for 5 years, leading humanity's most advanced reconnaissance vessel on missions that explored beyond the outer planets. The ship incorporated technology that made it invisible to conventional detection methods, allowing it to observe without being observed. "Distance and trajectory?" Vasquez asked, her voice calm despite the implications of what they might be seeing. "Approximately 40 astronomical units beyond Pluto's orbit." The signatures appeared suddenly, suggesting faster-than-light arrival. "Multiple sources, Captain. I count at least 15 distinct energy patterns, possibly more." Vasquez touched her communication panel. "Bridge to engineering. Mr. Park, I need everything our sensors can tell us about these contacts. Run them through every analysis protocol we have." Engineer James Park responded immediately from the ship's engineering section. "Already on it, Captain. Initial analysis suggests artificial origin. The energy signatures match theoretical profiles for advanced propulsion systems. Whoever they are far beyond our current technology level." General Marcus Chen sat in the command center buried 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, receiving the same data the Horizon was collecting. The facility housed Earth's true military headquarters, a network of installations that had been secretly constructed over the past 20 years. The general had gray hair and wore a simple uniform without decorations. His eyes showed the weariness of someone who carried heavy responsibilities. "How long until we have positive identification?" Chen asked his intelligence staff. Unknown, sir, Major Williams answered. The Horizon is maintaining stealth protocols and gathering data. Captain Vasquez reports she will need at least 48 hours to complete a full analysis without revealing our presence. Chen nodded slowly, considering the possibilities. Humanity had prepared for this moment since radio astronomers first detected artificial signals from deep space 30 years ago. The signals had been brief and never repeated, but they proved that humanity was not alone in the universe. More importantly, they suggested that someone out there had technology far beyond human capabilities. The discovery had changed everything. Governments that had spent centuries fighting each other suddenly found common purpose. Resources poured into secret programs designed to advance human technology and create defenses against potential threats from space. The public knew nothing about these preparations. They continued their lives believing humanity's greatest achievements were research stations on Mars and a few mining operations in the asteroid belt. The truth was far more complex. Humanity had ships like the Horizon exploring the outer solar system. They had weapons platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt, disguised as mining equipment. They had bases on moons throughout the system, all carefully concealed from casual observation. Most importantly, they had studied every scrap of data from those ancient radio signals, using them to develop technology that would surprise any visitors expecting to find a primitive species. Back on Valoris Prime, the Korvax War Council reached its decision. Supreme Commander Thane would personally lead the warning fleet to the human system. 300 ships would demonstrate the Dominion's power while offering the humans one chance to surrender peacefully. If they refused, the fleet would destroy their military capabilities and occupy their world. Prepare the 5th battle group, Thane ordered. We depart in 3 standard days. This will be a simple operation, completed within 1 week. The humans will see our fleet, understand their situation, and submit to Dominion authority. Council member Draxus bowed in acknowledgement. It shall be done, Supreme Commander. I will personally oversee the fleet preparations. The humans will learn what every species eventually discovers. Resistance against the Korvax Dominion is impossible. The Korvax fleet began assembling in orbit around Valoris Prime. Massive warships moved into formation, each one capable of destroying a planet's surface. Support vessels loaded supplies and ammunition. Thousands of Korvax soldiers prepared for potential ground operations, though no one expected the humans to resist long enough to require planetary invasion. Captain Vasquez watched from the horizon as more alien ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Her crew had counted over 200 vessels now, with more arriving every hour. The energy signatures were consistent with a military fleet, and their formation suggested preparation for an attack rather than peaceful exploration. They are not trying to hide, Lieutenant Chen observed. Every ship is broadcasting full-power signatures. They want us to see them. They are trying to intimidate us, Vasquez replied. They think we are primitives who will panic at the sight of advanced technology. They do not know we have been watching the stars for decades, waiting for exactly this moment. She activated the secure communication channel to Earth Defense Command. Horizon to Command. Confirm alien fleet composition. We count 243 vessels of various sizes. Largest vessels show energy output equivalent to multiple fusion reactors. Weapons capabilities unknown but presumed significant. General Chen's voice responded through the encrypted channel. Confirmed, Horizon. We are tracking the same contacts. All defense stations have been alerted. Phase 1 protocols are now active. Continue observation but do not reveal your position. We need to know everything about these ships before they know anything about us. The Korvax fleet completed its assembly and began moving toward the inner solar system. Supreme Commander Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, watching the tactical displays show the path to the human homeworld. The journey would take 10 standard days at their current speed, giving the humans time to detect the fleet and understand the hopelessness of their situation. All ships report ready for transit, his tactical officer announced. Fleet formation is optimal. We maintain full combat readiness throughout the approach. Thane gazed at the stars ahead, thinking about the conquest to come. It would be simple and quick, like all the others. The humans would see his fleet, realize they could not win, and surrender. Within a month, the Dominion would begin extracting resources from their system and integrating useful humans into the Empire's workforce. What Supreme Commander Thane did not know was that every move his fleet made was being recorded and analyzed. Captain Vasquez and the Horizon shadowed the alien fleet, using stealth technology the Korvax had never encountered. Every scan the aliens made revealed nothing about the human ship observing them, while human sensors gathered detailed information about alien technology, weapons, and tactics. Engineer Park worked continuously in the Horizon's engineering section, analyzing the data and developing countermeasures. "Captain, I think I have figured out how their shields work. The energy frequency is predictable, which means we can develop weapons that will penetrate them. Their ships are powerful, but they are designed for fighting enemies with similar technology. They have never faced an opponent who fights differently." Dr. Sarah Mitchell led the science team at the Hidden Research Facility on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. She received the data from the Horizon and immediately began developing new weapon systems based on the information. Her team had spent years studying theoretical alien technology, and now they had real examples to work with. The alien ships use a rotating shield frequency, Mitchell explained to her team. They probably switch frequencies to protect against different weapon types, but the rotation follows a mathematical pattern. If we can predict the pattern, we can time our weapons to hit during vulnerable moments. General Chen coordinated preparations across the entire solar system. Hidden bases activated their defense systems. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels revealed their true military nature. Weapon platforms throughout the asteroid belt aligned their targeting systems. Humanity had 10 days before the alien fleet arrived at Earth, and they would use every second to prepare. The Korvax fleet moved through space with absolute confidence. Supreme Commander Thane reviewed intelligence reports about the humans, noting their primitive technology and divided governments. He saw nothing that suggested they could mount any meaningful resistance. The conquest would be simple, just like all the others. But as the fleet approached the orbit of Neptune, something unexpected happened. Sensors detected a massive energy surge from multiple locations throughout the human system. Dozens of installations that had appeared to be simple mining operations or research stations suddenly showed power outputs that should not have existed for a primitive species. "Supreme Commander," the tactical officer reported with confusion in his voice. "We are detecting weapons platforms activating throughout the system. Current count is over 500 distinct installations, all showing active targeting systems." Thane stared at the tactical display as red warning symbols appeared across the human solar system. This was not what their intelligence had predicted. This was not a primitive species caught unprepared. This was an organized military force that had been waiting for them. "How is this possible?" Draxus demanded. "Our scans showed them to be decades away from this level of technology." Before anyone could answer, human ships began appearing on sensors. Not the primitive chemical rockets the Korvax expected, but advanced vessels using propulsion technology that suggested the humans understood physics far better than intelligence reports indicated. The ships moved with purpose and precision, taking up defensive positions throughout the system. Captain Vasquez dropped the Horizon's stealth field and activated all communication systems. Her image appeared on the bridge of every Korvax ship, her voice calm and clear. "Attention, alien fleet. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Ship Horizon. You have entered human territory without permission. State your intentions immediately, or face the consequences." Supreme Commander Thane felt something he had not experienced in 2 centuries of military service: uncertainty. The humans were not behaving like the primitives his intelligence described. They had technology that should not exist. They had defenses that should not be possible. Most concerning of all, they showed no fear of his fleet. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and for the first time in Korvax history the outcome was not certain. The tide turned. Supreme Commander Thane studied the tactical displays with growing concern. The human solar system was not the defenseless target his intelligence reports had described. Hundreds of weapons platforms dotted the asteroid belt, each one tracking his ships with active targeting systems. Human vessels moved through space with coordination that suggested years of military training, not the fumbling attempts of a species new to space warfare. Analysis of human capabilities? Thane demanded from his science officer. Unclear, Supreme Commander. The officer replied, his voice uncertain. Their energy signatures suggest fusion-based power systems, but the output levels exceed what should be possible with their technology level. Their ships show propulsion capabilities approaching our own cruiser speeds. This contradicts all previous survey data. Thane's four eyes narrowed as he considered the situation. The Korvax Dominion had conquered 17 species over 3,000 years. Every previous encounter followed the same pattern. Initial survey identified primitive capabilities. The warning fleet arrived. The natives panicked and conquest proceeded smoothly. But the humans were not panicking. They were responding with military precision. Open communication channels to the human vessel, Thane ordered. I will speak with this Captain Vasquez. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the horizon, surrounded by her crew as they monitored the alien fleet's movements. Lieutenant Chen managed the sensor stations, tracking every enemy ship and feeding data to Earth Defense Command. Engineer Park coordinated with the ship's weapon systems, ensuring everything functioned at peak efficiency. Incoming communication from the alien flagship, Chen reported. They are responding to our challenge. Put it on screen, Vasquez commanded. The main display activated, showing Supreme Commander Thane in his silver armor. His alien features were striking but not monstrous. Four eyes studied her with an intelligence that suggested centuries of military experience. When he spoke, translation software converted his words into English with only a slight delay. I am Supreme Commander Thane of the Korvax Dominion. Your species stands before the greatest military power in this region of the galaxy. We have conquered worlds far more advanced than yours. Surrender now and your people will be incorporated into the Dominion with minimal casualties. Resist and we will destroy your military capabilities and take your world by force. Vasquez met his gaze without flinching. Supreme Commander, you have made a critical error in your assessment of humanity. We are not the primitives you expected to find. We have been preparing for this encounter for 30 years. Your fleet is now surrounded by weapon systems you cannot detect and do not understand. This is your only chance to withdraw peacefully. Thane's expression shifted to what might have been amusement among his species. Bold words from a species that barely reaches its own moon. You have 1 standard hour to consider your position. After that, we will demonstrate why resistance is futile. The communication ended, leaving Vasquez and her crew in tense silence. He does not believe we are a real threat, Lieutenant Chen observed. Good, Vasquez replied. Let him maintain that belief for another 59 minutes. Transmit final coordinates to all defense stations. On my mark, we show the Korvax what happens when they underestimate humanity. General Marcus Chen watched events unfold from the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Holographic displays showed the positions of every human and alien ship throughout the solar system. Red icons marked the Korvax fleet as it advanced slowly toward Earth's orbit. Blue icons represented human forces, spread across multiple defensive lines from the outer planets to near-Earth space. All stations report ready, Major Williams announced. Weapon platforms 1 through 500 have locked targets. Fleet elements are in position. Ground-based systems are armed and tracking. We are ready to execute Phase 2 on your command, sir. Chen studied the tactical situation with the careful attention of someone who understood this moment would define humanity's future. If they succeeded, humanity would survive and emerge as a force to be respected in the galaxy. If they failed, human civilization would end or be enslaved. Signal all commands, Chen ordered. Execute Phase 2 in 3 minutes. Coordinate with Captain Vasquez for initial strike timing. Make every shot count. On Europa, Dr. Sarah Mitchell and her research team made final adjustments to the weapons systems they had developed based on data from the horizon. The alien shields operated on predictable frequency rotations, changing patterns every 2.3 seconds. Human weapons would fire during the microsecond windows when shields transitioned between frequencies. All calculations confirm the approach will work, Mitchell told her team. We have one advantage they do not expect. Human computers can process tactical data faster than Korvax systems. We can predict their shield rotations and time our shots for maximum effect. The 1-hour deadline approached its end. Supreme Commander Thane prepared to demonstrate Korvax superiority, by destroying a few human satellites and weapons platforms. The strikes would show the futility of resistance without causing massive casualties. Once the humans understood their position, they would surrender and avoid further destruction. All ships prepare for demonstration firing, Thane commanded. Target the human weapons platforms in sectors 3 through 7. Destroy 10 installations to show our capabilities. His weapons officer confirmed the order and began the firing sequence. Energy weapons charged and targeting systems locked onto human positions. At precisely the 1-hour mark, 50 Korvax ships fired simultaneously at human weapons platforms. Every shot missed its target. The human platforms had moved milliseconds before the Korvax weapons fired. They shifted position using short-burst thrusters, following evasion patterns calculated by computers that predicted where the alien weapons would aim. The energy beams passed through empty space, hitting nothing but vacuum. What happened? Thane demanded. How did they know where we would fire? Before his crew could respond, the human counterattack began. 500 weapons platforms fired in perfect coordination. Each shot was timed to strike during the vulnerable microsecond when Korvax shields transitioned between frequencies. Energy beams and kinetic projectiles hit their targets with devastating accuracy. 30 Korvax ships lost shields in the first volley. 20 more suffered critical damage as human weapons found weak points in their armor. Captain Vasquez watched the tactical display as the first phase of humanity's defense proved successful. All ships advanced to engagement range. Weapons free. Target their command ships and heavy cruisers. Make them understand we are not prey. The horizon accelerated toward the Korvax fleet, leading a squadron of 20 human warships. These vessels represented humanity's best engineering, combining human innovation with theoretical understanding of alien technology. They were smaller than Korvax ships, but faster and more maneuverable. Engineer James Park sat at his station in the Horizon's engineering section, managing power distribution across multiple systems. Captain, I am redirecting power from non-essential systems to weapons and shields. We will have a 15% advantage in sustained combat. The human ship struck the Korvax formation like a blade cutting into vulnerable flesh. They did not try to match the aliens in firepower. Instead, they used speed and unpredictability, appearing where the enemy did not expect them, and disappearing before return fire could strike. Lieutenant Chen coordinated point defense systems as Korvax weapons fired at the horizon. Enemy targeting systems are trying to lock on, executing random evasion pattern 7. The horizon twisted through space in movements that should have been impossible for a ship its size. Human inertial dampening technology allowed the crew to survive maneuvers that would have killed them under normal physics. The ship dodged incoming fire, while its weapons targeted vulnerable points on enemy vessels. Supreme Commander Thane watched his fleet take casualties with growing disbelief. This should not be possible. The humans were primitives. They should be cowering in fear, not executing complex military maneuvers that rivaled Korvax tactical doctrine. All ships, full combat engagement, Thane ordered. Destroy the human vessels. Show no mercy. The Korvax fleet responded with overwhelming firepower. Energy weapons lit up space as hundreds of ships fired at the smaller human force. For a moment, it seemed the sheer volume of fire would overwhelm human defenses. But humanity had prepared for exactly this scenario. Stealth ships that had remained hidden throughout the system suddenly activated. These vessels had been observing the Korvax fleet since it arrived, studying their tactics and weapon patterns. Now they struck from unexpected directions, hitting command ships and support vessels with precisely targeted attacks. Dr. Mitchell's specialized weapons proved devastatingly effective. Human missiles used adaptive warheads that analyzed shield frequencies in real time and adjusted their detonation timing for maximum penetration. Kinetic weapons fired from railguns achieved velocities that overwhelmed alien point defense systems. The Battle of the Outer Rim raged for 6 hours as human and Korvax forces clashed across millions of miles of space. Every human ship fought with desperate determination, knowing that defeat meant extinction. Every Korvax commander struggled to understand how primitives were matching their technology and tactics. Captain Vasquez led the Horizon in a daring assault on the Korvax flagship. Her ship approached the massive destroyer of worlds from below, using the planet Neptune's gravity to mask their approach. When they emerged from the planet's shadow, They were within point-blank range of Thane's vessel. "Fire all forward weapons," Vasquez commanded. "Target their bridge section." The Horizon's main batteries fired simultaneously. Energy beams and kinetic projectiles hammered the flagship's shields during vulnerable transition moments. The concentrated firepower overwhelmed local shield generators, allowing some shots to penetrate and strike the ship's armor. Supreme Commander Thane felt his flagship shudder from impacts. Damage reports flooded his console as human weapons found weak points his engineers had considered theoretical impossibilities. For the first time in his 2-century military career, he faced the possibility of defeat. "All ships withdraw to Rally Point Delta," Thane ordered. "Execute emergency retreat protocols." The Korvax fleet began pulling back, abandoning damaged vessels and attempting to create distance from the human forces. But humanity had prepared for this possibility as well. Long-range missile platforms throughout the system launched waves of weapons that pursued the retreating aliens. General Chen watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The Korvax were retreating, something his intelligence suggested they had never done before. But victory was not complete. The alien fleet still possessed 200 operational ships, enough to return and continue the fight. "Signal all commands," Chen ordered. "Do not pursue beyond the outer planets. Secure damaged enemy vessels for intelligence gathering. Prepare defensive positions for their potential return. This battle is won, but the war may just be beginning." Captain Vasquez guided the Horizon back toward Earth orbit as her crew conducted damage assessments. They had survived the engagement with moderate damage to hull plating and shield generators. More importantly, they had proven humanity could fight advanced alien forces and win. "Casualties?" Vasquez asked her medical officer. 17 injured, none critical. All crew members are accounted for." "We got lucky, Captain." Vasquez nodded, thinking about the other human ships that had not been as fortunate. 8 vessels had been destroyed, their crews sacrificed to protect Earth. 233 people had died, proving humanity deserved to survive. Far from the battlefield, news of the engagement spread across the galaxy through the Korvax communication networks. Other species that lived under Dominion rule heard about the impossible battle where primitives defeated the mighty Korvax fleet. For the first time in thousands of years, they began to question whether the Dominion was truly invincible. Supreme Commander Thane sat alone in his damaged flagship, reviewing combat footage and trying to understand what had happened. The humans should not have been able to fight like that. They should not have possessed technology capable of penetrating Korvax shields. Most importantly, they should not have won. "Supreme Commander," Council Member Draxus said carefully, entering the command chamber, "we must report this to the War Council. They will demand an explanation." Thane looked at his subordinate with eyes that had lost their certainty. "Tell the Council we have encountered something new. The humans are not primitives. They are warriors who have been preparing for this fight. We underestimated them, and it cost us 60 ships and 3,000 soldiers. What do we do now?" Thane considered the question carefully before answering. "We regroup, analyze everything we learned, and prepare for a second assault. But this time we bring overwhelming force. We will assemble the largest fleet in Dominion history. The humans won this battle through surprise and preparation. They will not surprise us again." As the Korvax retreated to their territory, humanity celebrated its first victory against an alien invasion. But General Chen and the other military leaders knew this was only the beginning. The Korvax would return with greater numbers and better preparation. Humanity had proven it could fight, but the real test was still to come. Captain Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Horizon, looking out at Earth hanging in space nearby. The blue planet looked peaceful and beautiful, unaware of how close it had come to conquest. She thought about the battles ahead and the sacrifices that would be required. "We surprised them once," she said to Lieutenant Chen, who had joined her at the window. "Next time they will be ready for us." "Then we will need to surprise them again," Chen replied. "That is what humans do best. We adapt, we overcome, we survive." Vasquez smiled slightly, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with protecting humanity's future. The Korvax had learned an important lesson today. When humans were threatened, they did not surrender. They fought with everything they had, using every advantage they could create. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone pushed humanity too far. Part 3. Humanity Rising the Seki. Korvax War Council met in emergency session on Valoris Prime. Supreme Commander. Thane stood before the assembled leaders, his silver armor showing damage from the battle. His 4 eyes scanned the faces of council members, seeing their shock and disbelief at his report. In 3,000 years of Dominion history, no fleet had ever retreated from a primitive species. You are telling us that 300 of our finest ships could not defeat a species that barely reaches beyond its own planet? Council Leader Vexer demanded. His voice carried the authority of someone who had led the Dominion for 5 centuries. How is this possible? Thane activated holographic displays showing combat footage from the Battle of the Outer Rim. The images showed human ships moving with impossible speed and precision, their weapons penetrating Korvax shields through methods that should not exist. The council members watched in silence as their mighty fleet was forced to retreat by opponents they had dismissed as primitive. The humans are not primitives, Thane explained. They have been preparing for first contact for decades. They possess technology far beyond what our surveys indicated. More importantly, they fight using tactics and strategies we have never encountered. They do not match our strength directly. They use speed, deception, and what I can only describe as calculated unpredictability. Council member Draxus stood to address the assembly. Our intelligence was clearly flawed. The question now is what we do about it. We cannot allow this defeat to stand. If other species learn that primitives defeated the Korvax Dominion, our entire empire could face rebellion. The council chamber filled with heated discussion as members debated their response. Some argued for overwhelming force to crush human resistance. Others suggested negotiation to learn human secrets. A few cautious voices questioned whether they should engage humanity at all. Vexer raised his hand for silence. We will respond as the Dominion always responds to threats. With overwhelming military power. Supreme Commander Thane, you will assemble the largest fleet in our history. Take whatever ships and resources you need. The humans must be defeated completely and publicly. We will make an example of them that will discourage other species from resisting our rule. Thane bowed in acknowledgement, though doubt gnawed at his confidence. It shall be done, Council Leader. However, I must stress that the humans will be preparing for our return. They learn and adapt quickly. We cannot underestimate them again. Then we will not underestimate them, Vexer replied coldly. We will bring 3,000 ships. No species can stand against such force. While the Korvax prepared their massive fleet, humanity used the breathing space to strengthen defenses and reach out to potential allies across the galaxy. General Marcus Chen coordinated diplomatic efforts with the same intensity he applied to military operations. We need intelligence about other species under Dominion rule, Chen explained during a strategy meeting with his senior staff. If we can convince them to resist or at least share information, we gain significant advantages. Captain Elena Vasquez had returned to Earth for the meeting, leaving the horizon under her first officer's command. She sat at the conference table with a dozen other military leaders, discussing humanity's next moves. Our signal intelligence has intercepted communications from several species expressing interest in contacting us, Vasquez reported. They are being careful not to let the Korvax know, but they want to understand how we defeated the fleet. Dr. Sarah Mitchell joined the meeting via holographic display from her research facility on Europa. We have been analyzing the Korvax technology from captured ships. I have good news and concerning news. The good news is we can replicate and improve most of their systems. The concerning news is that their technology represents only mid-level capabilities for galactic civilizations. There are likely species with far more advanced capabilities. Engineer James Park appeared on another holographic display from the shipyards being constructed near Mars. We are accelerating ship production using the captured alien manufacturing techniques. Current projections show we can build 500 new warships within 6 months. The new designs incorporate the best of human and Korvax technology. General Chen listened to all the reports before speaking. Our strategy must account for the fact that the Korvax will return with superior numbers. We cannot win through simple military confrontation. We need to turn this into a political situation where defeating us costs them more than negotiating with us. Over the following months, humanity implemented a multifaceted strategy. They reached out secretly to oppressed species within the Dominion, sharing carefully selected information about human capabilities and victories. They expanded defensive installations throughout the solar system and into nearby star systems using captured faster-than-light technology. Most importantly, they prepared for a different kind of warfare. Lieutenant Chen, who had been promoted to commander after the first battle, led the Horizon on diplomatic missions to species interested in communicating with humanity. His first contact was with the Therian Collective, a species of insectoid beings who had been forced into the Dominion 3 centuries ago. "Why do you risk helping us?" Chen asked the Therian ambassador during their secret meeting in neutral space. "Because you did something we thought impossible," the ambassador replied through translation devices. "You defeated the Korvax in open combat. For centuries we have lived under their rule, believing resistance was futile. You proved that belief wrong. Many species like us are watching to see what happens next." Chen seized the opportunity. "Then help us make sure what happens next benefits everyone, not just humanity. Share intelligence about Korvax fleet movements and capabilities. When they attack again, we want to make it so costly that they have to reconsider their entire approach to other species." The Therian agreed, and similar agreements followed with 4 other species. Humanity gained invaluable intelligence about Korvax military doctrine, political structure, and the locations of key installations. In return, humans shared technology and tactical information that could help these species defend themselves. Supreme Commander Thane spent 6 months assembling his massive fleet. 3,000 ships gathered in orbit around Valoris Prime, representing the largest military force the Dominion had ever assembled. Every major ship type was represented, from massive dreadnoughts capable of destroying planets to swift attack craft designed for space superiority. "This fleet could conquer any civilization in the galaxy," Draxus said as he stood beside Thane, watching ships maneuver in formation. "The humans will have no choice but to surrender." Thane was less certain. "Numbers are not everything. The humans demonstrated tactical sophistication that worries me. I have requested permission to send advanced scouts to assess their current capabilities." "Denied," Draxus replied firmly. "The Council wants overwhelming force applied immediately. We arrive, we demand surrender, and we crush any resistance with such power that they have no choice but to submit." The massive Korvax armada departed Valoris Prime with great ceremony. Citizens watched from the planet's surface as 3,000 ships moved into formation and accelerated toward faster-than-light speeds. The fleet represented the concentrated military might of an empire that had ruled this region of the galaxy for millennia. Earth's long-range detection systems picked up the approaching fleet 2 weeks before it would arrive. General Chen called an emergency meeting of all military and civilian leadership. The holographic display in the command center showed 3,000 red icons advancing toward the solar system. "They are not holding back," Major Williams observed. "This is their full strength committed to one battle." "Good," Chen replied, surprising his staff with the response. "The more ships they commit here, the fewer they have to control their empire." Our allies report increased unrest on Dominion worlds. Species are questioning whether their overlords are truly invincible. Captain Vasquez reviewed the defensive plans humanity had prepared. "We have 1,500 ships now, thanks to accelerated production. Our weapon systems have been upgraded using the intelligence from our allies. We have established defensive positions in 3 nearby star systems, using captured FTL drives. We are as ready as we can be." Dr. Mitchell appeared on the holographic display from Europa. "I have a proposal that could change the nature of this engagement. We have developed a weapon system that disrupts faster-than-light drive cores. If we deploy it correctly, we can trap the Korvax fleet in normal space, preventing them from retreating or receiving reinforcements." "How effective is it?" Chen asked. "Unknown, sir. We have only tested it on captured Korvax ships, but the theory is sound. It creates an interference field that prevents FTL drive activation within a specific volume of space." Chen made the decision immediately. "Deploy it. If we can trap them here, we force them to either negotiate or lose their entire fleet. Either outcome benefits humanity." The Korvax fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system with full military ceremony. Supreme Commander Thane expected to see human forces cowering near their planet, terrified by the overwhelming force he commanded. Instead, he found humanity spread across 3 star systems in defensive positions that suggested months of preparation. "They have expanded beyond their home system," Thane's tactical officer reported with concern. "We are detecting human installations in the closest neighboring stars. They have achieved interstellar capability." Before Thane could respond, Captain Vasquez's image appeared on every Korvax ship's communication system simultaneously. She stood on the bridge of the horizon, flanked by human officers representing Earth's unified military command. Supreme Commander Thane, Vasquez began, her voice calm and confident. Welcome back to human space. You return with greater numbers, believing that overwhelming force will guarantee victory. You are wrong. We have used the past 6 months to prepare not just for battle, but to change the nature of this conflict entirely. Thane activated his communication system. Captain Vasquez, you speak bravely for someone facing 3,000 warships. Surrender now and your species will be treated fairly. Resist and we will destroy everything you have built. We reject your terms, Vasquez replied. Instead, I offer you different terms. Withdraw your fleet, open negotiations for peaceful coexistence, and help us establish fair relations between the Dominion and humanity. Refuse, and you will lose this fleet and your empire's reputation for invincibility. Thane almost laughed at the audacity. You threaten me with 1,500 ships against 3,000? Your courage is admirable but pointless. Numbers are not everything, Vasquez responded. You are about to learn what happens when humans have time to prepare. On Vasquez's signal, Dr. Mitchell activated the FTL disruption field. Energy waves spread across the entire region of space containing both fleets, creating interference that prevented faster-than-light travel. The Korvax fleet was now trapped in normal space, unable to retreat or call for reinforcements. What have you done? Thane demanded as his navigation officers reported the FTL disruption. We have created a situation where you must negotiate, Vasquez explained. Your fleet cannot escape. You cannot receive reinforcements. You can fight and possibly win, but you will take catastrophic casualties. Or you can talk with us and find a better solution. The second battle for Earth began differently than the first. This time humanity fought not to survive but to prove a point. Human ships engaged Korvax forces across multiple star systems simultaneously, using tactics that had been refined through 6 months of training and preparation. Captain Vasquez led the primary assault, coordinating 1,500 human ships against sections of the Korvax fleet. But this time humanity had help. Ships from the Therian Collective and other allied species appeared throughout the battle space, attacking Korvax support vessels and disrupting their formations. Supreme Commander Thane watched his carefully organized fleet descend into chaos as enemies appeared from unexpected directions. The humans fought with the same unpredictable tactics they had used before, but now they coordinated with allies who knew Korvax weaknesses. We are taking heavy casualties, his tactical officer reported. Current losses exceed 400 ships. The humans are targeting our command vessels and supply lines. We are losing fleet cohesion. For the first time in his long military career, Thane faced the possibility of complete defeat. His massive fleet was being picked apart by a coordinated alliance that fought using tactics the Dominion had never encountered. More concerning, he saw Dominion member species actively fighting against him. The battle raged for 3 days as human and allied forces systematically dismantled the Korvax fleet. Human ships demonstrated revolutionary tactics that combined speed, precision, and psychological warfare. They would appear, strike hard, and vanish before the Korvax could respond effectively. Engineer Park's ship modifications proved crucial. Human vessels could sustain combat longer than Korvax ships, allowing them to outlast their enemies in extended engagements. Dr. Mitchell's weapons penetrated enemy shields with increasing efficiency as human. Computers learned and adapted to Korvax defensive patterns. On the third day, with his fleet reduced to 1,800 operational ships and facing an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with every engagement, Supreme Commander Thane made a decision that would change galactic history. Open communication channels to Captain Vasquez, Thane ordered. I will negotiate. Vasquez appeared on his screen, showing the same calm confidence she had displayed throughout the conflict. Supreme Commander, I am listening. I propose a ceasefire, Thane said, feeling the weight of his empire's expectations. We will discuss terms for ending this conflict without further casualties. The negotiations took place aboard a neutral station constructed specifically for this purpose. Thane met face-to-face with General Chen, Captain Vasquez, and representatives from the allied species that had supported humanity. For the first time, the Korvax leader saw himself not as a conqueror, but as one leader among many. Our terms are simple, Chen explained. The Dominion withdraws all claims to human territory. You cease aggressive expansion and begin negotiations with member species about their status within your empire. In return, humanity will share the technology we have developed and work toward peaceful coexistence. Thane considered the terms carefully. They were not unreasonable, but they represented a fundamental change in how the Dominion operated. And if we refuse? Then we destroy what remains of your fleet and take our alliance to your territory, Chen replied. We did not want war, Supreme Commander, but we will not accept conquest. The galaxy is large enough for cooperation instead of domination. Supreme Commander Thane returned to Valoris Prime to present the situation to the War Council. His arrival with barely half his fleet intact shocked the Dominion leadership. For the first time in their history, they faced the reality that their military superiority was not absolute. The debate in the council chambers lasted for days. Some members demanded continued war. Others recognized that the old ways of expansion through conquest were no longer viable. Eventually, practical concerns won over pride. The humans have proven they can defend themselves, Council Leader Vexer admitted. More concerning, they have inspired rebellion among our member species. If we continue this war, we risk losing our entire empire. We must adapt to this new reality. The Korvax Dominion and humanity signed the Treaty of Earth 6 months after the Second Battle. The agreement established human territory as sovereign and independent, created frameworks for peaceful trade and exchange of technology, and most importantly, required the Dominion to begin reform processes that gave member species more autonomy. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Horizon, watching as the first Korvax diplomatic delegation arrived at Earth orbit. The alien ships came in peace this time, their weapons powered down and their shields configured for peaceful approach. Hard to believe we are welcoming them now, Lieutenant Chen said, joining her at the window. We gave them a choice, Vasquez replied. Adapt or face defeat. They chose adaptation. Not all wars end with complete victory or defeat. Sometimes they end with understanding. General Marcus Chen addressed the United Nations Assembly, explaining to the civilian leadership what had been achieved. Humanity faced extinction and instead earned respect. We did not win through superior force. We won because we refused to give up, because we learned faster than our enemies, and because we convinced others that there was a better way. Dr. Sarah Mitchell continued her research, now working with Korvax scientists to develop technology that would benefit both species. The exchange of knowledge accelerated human advancement by decades, while giving the Korvax new perspectives on problems they had considered solved. Across the galaxy, news of the human victory spread rapidly. Other species under Dominion rule began demanding similar treatment. Some sought independence. Others negotiated for greater autonomy within a reformed empire. The rigid structure of galactic civilization began changing toward something more flexible and fair. Supreme Commander Thane, now serving as the Dominion's ambassador to humanity, met privately with General Chen a year after the treaty signing. The two former enemies had developed mutual respect through their negotiations. You changed everything, Thane said, looking at Earth hanging peacefully in space. My empire spent 3,000 years believing might made right. You proved that determination and intelligence can overcome might. We did not want to change anything, Chen replied honestly. We just wanted to survive. Everything else followed from that basic drive. That is what makes humans dangerous, Thane observed. You do not seek power for its own sake. You seek survival and will do whatever necessary to achieve it. When we threatened your survival, you became unstoppable. Chen smiled slightly. Let us hope no one threatens our survival again. We would prefer to focus on exploration and discovery rather than war. Captain Vasquez led the Horizon on humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council, now reformed to include representation from previously subject species. She stood before assembled delegates from hundreds of civilizations, introducing humanity to the broader galactic community. We come not as conquerors, but as neighbors, Vasquez said to the assembly. We proved we can defend ourselves, but we prefer cooperation to conflict. Humanity offers its skills, knowledge, and perspective to help build a galaxy where all species can thrive. The response was mixed. Some species welcomed humanity with enthusiasm. Others remained suspicious of the warriors who had defeated the mighty Korvax. But all recognized that the galaxy had changed. The old order based on military dominance had given way to something more complex. Years passed. Human colonies spread to dozens of star systems using faster-than-light technology that combined human innovation with alien knowledge. Trade networks connected Earth with civilizations across the galaxy. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers to solve problems that affected multiple species. The generation of humans who had fought in the battles against the Korvax retired, replaced by young people who grew up in a galaxy where humanity was an established power. They faced different challenges than their parents. Working to build relationships rather than defend against extinction, Captain Vasquez, now an admiral commanding Earth's expanding space fleet, stood on the bridge of a new ship named Unity. The vessel combined human and alien engineering, crewed by both humans and aliens working together. It represented the future humanity had fought to achieve. Course laid in for the Andromeda relay, her navigation officer reported. We are ready to begin humanity's first extragalactic exploration mission. Vasquez looked at the stars ahead, thinking about the journey that had brought humanity from a single planet to a species exploring beyond their own galaxy. They had faced extinction and survived. They had fought overwhelming odds and won. Most importantly, they had proven that determination and creativity could overcome any challenge. Engage, Vasquez ordered, watching the stars stretch into lines as the Unity accelerated to faster-than-light speeds. Behind them, Earth orbited peacefully, its blue oceans and green continents unmarked by the war that had nearly destroyed human civilization. The planet that had almost fallen to alien conquest now served as the heart of a growing human civilization that spanned the stars. The Korvax had learned their lesson. Every fleet that faced humanity with the intention of conquest had failed to return victorious. Some had retreated. Others had been destroyed. All had underestimated the species that refused to surrender. Humanity had risen from a threatened primitive civilization to a galactic power not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through determination, adaptability, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. They had proven that survival was not about being the strongest or most advanced. It was about being willing to fight for what mattered, to learn from every challenge and to never give up hope. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. When humans were pushed to the edge of extinction, they did not break. They adapted. They overcame. They rose, and no one who faced them would ever forget it.